Welcome to Cloudy Knit Crochet. My name is Lori, and I would love to crochet up a storm with you. So please subscribe and hit the notification bell. Speaking about crocheting up a storm, I had a highlight of my day the other day. Early in the morning, I was driving somewhere and I saw a single lightning bolt come down from the sky. And I think it's the first time I've seen a lightning bolt in the daytime. This episode will be all about the crochet alongs that I'll be working on this year. If you are new to my channel, a special welcome to you. And if you're returning, thank you for coming back to watch my episode. So in 2022, I have two works in progress. I have two crochet alongs that I have not completed yet from 2021. And the first one is the Cool Crochet Society crochet along, and I'll put that information, the link below. And when you look at the back of this Afghan, you don't see any of the rectangles or triangle strips attached yet. So I still have a fair amount of work to do on this crochet along that I started last year. So stay tuned and I'll show you my other crochet along that I need to finish up for 2021. Now let me do a quick update on my Moogly Crochet Along 2021 Afghan that I'm working on. My goal is to have this completed by the end of the year. I still haven't made all the blocks yet, but I did start the process of crocheting these blocks together. And I like to do a tutorial on the stitch for that. Okay, I have two of my blocks for the Moogly Crochet Along for 2021. And I wanted to do a tutorial on how to join crochet squares using the ZIG ZAG slip stitch. Now, when I was making all my blocks for this crochet along, I made a point to have the very last row for each block be a single crochet in the brown for each of my blocks to, when I sew them together, the border looks uniform from block to block. So I decided to go ahead and do the zigzag slip stitch, and I really like how it looks. So first thing you need to do is you line up your blocks, and so I'll put a stitch marker at the top, one at the bottom, and then I usually just put one in the middle. Now, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I've purchased different stitch markers before off of Amazon. And the first time I got stitch markers, I just got a generic brand. And I realized they did not slip through the yarn real nicely. I kind of had to force it to go through the yarn. And then I found Clover. I really like Clover products. And when you look at a Clover stitch marker, it has this like bumps in there. And I don't know if the design of that is what makes it slip through the yarn real nice, but they work really good. So if you're in the market to buy stitch markers. And now the clover hook stitch markers are a little more expensive, but I find that they work really smooth and nice working with the stitch marker than the generic ones. So I thought I'd show you the clover stitch markers. If you haven't tried them, you might want to give them a try. I found a difference between using them and the more generic stitch markers. Now let's start the tutorial on the ZIG ZAG slip stitch. Now, before we start it, let me give you kind of the concept of what you're going to be doing. Is you're going to be working from this block to the next block, and you're going to do a zigzag going back and forth like this. So let me show you how to do that. So the block that is closest to you, you're going to go from the top down, wrap your yarn and pull through. And now you have your yarn attached. You'll go to the opposite block, and again you're going to go from the top down towards the center of the two blocks. Wrap your yarn, pull through, and then pull through again. And now you're going to go over to the opposite side, and you're going to go from the top down in the middle, wrap your yarn, pull through, and pull through again. Go to the opposite block again, from the top down, wrap your yarn, pull through, and pull through again. Let me do that again. So you go to the next stitch, you're working from the top down to the center, wrap your yarn, pull through, and pull through again. Go to the opposite side, from the top down towards the center of the two blocks, wrap your yarn, pull through, and then pull through again. So let me do that a couple more times. And when you're working this, if you accidentally skip a stitch every once in a while, don't worry about it too much. It will, if you skip a couple stitches as you're doing this, it's probably not going to make that big of a difference, because when I'm doing it, I don't like sit here and count how many single crochets I have on this block and how many I have on that one. If it's off by a couple stitches, it's still gonna lay nicely for being attached to both of the blocks. So I wouldn't get too concerned about that unless I mean, you can, believe me, you could go ahead and count your stitches from one block to the next, but if they're off by a couple stitches, that doesn't mean you have to rip out one block and get it correct that way. You can make the adjustments when you're crocheting the two blocks together. So that is how you do the zigzag stitch, and let me show it to you right here. And I like the way it looks. It looks like a ridge, and I like how that is attaching the two blocks together. And then the crochet hook that I've been using for this project is the wooden furl hook, and this one is a size J. And what I found with the wooden furl hooks, with my experience of using them, is they work really well when you're using the really soft yarn. And the yarn that I'm using, that I use throughout this project, is Red Heart, the soft yarn, 100% acrylic, a weight 4. So I went ahead and I pulled that one row that I've completed attaching. So I wanted to give you a close-up of what that zigzag slip stitch looks like after you attach it to your blocks. So here's a look at it that I completed. And I just love the texture of it. I can't wait until I attach this row to my next row. And then you're going to see this really pretty ridge stitch going around each block in your afghan. So I had fun doing the tutorial. I'm still new at doing tutorials, and I would love to get your feedback how I did on this tutorial. I've noticed when I watch other YouTube channels, it's definitely like an art form, doing tutorials to teach people how to do a stitch, to make sure that they see the stitches that you're doing and that your hand doesn't get in the way of the tutorial and the lighting. There's just so much goes into doing tutorials. So every once in a while on my channel, I'm starting to challenge myself by doing tutorials. And I know there's that learning curve. So I would really appreciate your feedback of how I can improve on doing tutorials. So that is the zigzag stitch slip stitch. Now let's jump ahead to the current year, 2022, and I started a crochet along for this year, and it is by Repeat Crafter Me, and I will leave her information in the description box below. So in January, we made a January gnome to symbolize winter, so right here up on top. He has a cute little snowflake. And if you haven't watched my channels before, I'm calling this year on my channel the Year of the Gnome. So in February was for Valentine's Day, and I made a girl gnome. So the girl gnomes have the cute little ponytails. So that was for February. And please excuse all my spaghetti ends. You could tell I'm just not in the mood to sew in spaghetti ends, but I will do that eventually. Here is the month of March for St. Tricks Day. And I've been using scrap yarn in my stash. I'm using a weight for 100% acrylic, and I'm using a crochet hook a size H, which is a 5mm hook. And then for April was Easter, and this one was really fun, especially making the little bunny ears up there. And then if I don't have the color that I want in my stash, then I just go purchase that. Most of my yarn that I'm using is the Joann's Big Twist yarn. I really like Big Twist yarn. And then for May was for May flowers. So I made a cute little flower there. And I'm making all the background in the same color. Now, when you look at her website, she's making her blocks with different colored background. But I decided to make my afghan to be more uniform throughout the afghan by using the same color yarn throughout for the background. And then this June, and I'm all caught up. I just have to wait for July 1st to get my next pattern. Now, this gnome was for strawberries. So you have your red strawberry, and then the greenery for the top of the strawberry. And then I'm like, okay, so what color am I going to do this in? If I have a strawberry on top, I thought, okay, dirt. Dirt's brown. So I went ahead and did brown here on the bottom. So that is for June. So that is, so I'm all caught up on my 2022 gnome crochet along. Guess what, guys? I just started a new project, and it's a older crochet along that took place back in 2020. So stay tuned, and I'll tell you all about my new project using this beautiful yarn. Okay, now let's take a closer look at the yarn that I purchased to do this crochet along. I went ahead and I purchased the yarn that they suggested to buy in the pattern, and they had different color themes going on, and I went ahead and picked the traditional theme. So the yarn that I purchased is Style Craft Special Double Knit. It's a DK weight. It's 100% premium acrylic, 322 yards. And I bought one skein of the lipstick, and I purchased 4 skeins of the cream, 2, 3, and 4, and get them all out of the basket there. And then I got 1 skein of teal, and I got 2 skeins of mustard, 1 skein of sage, and then the last skein that I got was 1 skein of claret. So that's the yarn that I purchased to do this crochet along. And I thought, okay, this will be the first time that I'm going to be sharing a work in progress, starting from purchasing the yarn and sharing the yarn that I purchased before I actually start that project. So that is the yarn that I purchased, and now let me share with you the pattern that I'll be making. I've been wanting to make something for Christmas, and I wanted to do it in a mosaic stitch. Now, I first heard about mosaic last year, and I dabbled a little bit with it in a couple other Afghans, but I've never done a complete mosaic project. So this is the one that I'm going to be making. I found it on Ravelry website, and I purchased it, and it's called the Letitia's Holiday Crochet Along, and it took place back in 2020. One thing I wanted to point out to you about this pattern is it comes in different sizes. It comes in I think a small, medium, and large size Afghan, and also she made adjustments to make a table runner / wall hanging. So I decided to do the wall hanging. Now the hook size that I'm using for this crochet along is a size D. Here's a photo of the table runner / wall hanging that I will be making with this pattern. I just am so excited that I found this pattern, and my goal is to have it done by Christmas of this year. So a couple days ago, I started the project because I was so excited to do a mosaic. And on this pattern, they do a tutorial, which was very helpful for me since I've never really done a lot of mosaic before. And as I was reading through the pattern, it was talking about an overlay mosaic, an inset mosaic, and I'm like, I'm kind of confused what's going on here since I'm just now learning how to go about doing mosaic. But watching the tutorials on this pattern has been really helpful for me, especially since I'm new to the mosaic stitch. So here's the front of the work, and now let me show you the back. Look at that. Is that cool? It is such a fun stitch, and there's so many patterns you can make with the mosaic. So I've got my Christmas trees going on here. So I went ahead and zoomed in on the camera so you could get a better look at the detail of this project. Isn't that fun? Let me know in the comments below, have you guys ever done a mosaic? And if so, if you could give me hints and tricks of what to know about the mosaic stitch, that would be great. I would really appreciate that. Now, the crochet hook that I'm using for this project is a clover. And like I said about the stitch markers, I love clover products. And I would say the clover crochet hook is definitely one of my favorite. And again, I like to also purchase the Lether collection crochet hooks where the handles are handmade with wood, but they use the clover tips. So I don't know if you guys have ever tried clover crochet hooks, but if you haven't, I highly recommend you to buy one to try it out. So that is my update on what crochet alongs that I will be working on for this year. So I'm hoping within the next month or two, I will give you another update so you can see the progress on my crochet alongs. Thank you. Thank you for watching. And here's the picture of the latest hashtag Canva Design Challenge. And this was the theme for travel. All the crochet alongs that I mentioned in this episode will be in the link below. Bye for now until we meet again.